When you got former prime ministers saying there's war crimes about, it's over. It's in the last stage, okay? That's it. I'm saying it.
The police.
I don't want people to give any further oxygen to this. Every conversation that moves away from the plight of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip that are being slaughtered ruthlessly and being starved out by the state of Israel is playing playing into Israel's goals here. That is precisely the reason why yesterday Benjamin Netanyahu instantly came out and said, saying free Palestine is akin to saying Heil Hitler. And not only that, but also that, the leadership of the French government, the British government, and the Spanish government were actually the ones who pulled the trigger by doing what? By offering the most marginal of condemnations to the state of Israel for its mass starvation campaign. What a ridiculous thing to claim. And the Canadian government as well.
Stopped them from getting to the Gaza crossing at Kerem Shalom. So they held their protest at the side of the road.
All the pictures of the children here, of Gazan children that have been killed by our army. Yeah.
And how does that make you feel?
Furious. We are here to say no more.
There have been many demonstrations in Israel about the hostages still being held in Gaza.
One thing I will say about the changing of the attitude overall in Israeli society is that standing together is like somewhat comprised. Is probably the largest group of protesters against the Israeli state that are comprised of some anti-Zionists, but mostly liberal Zionists. And post-October 7, there were plenty of people that were a part of this group, Ombim Be'echad, also known as Standing Together, that actually took a very different tone on the occupation, not one that was, of course, in support of Palestinians at all. Having said that, while the initial protest that took place by Standing Together was, one, tiny, and two, comprised almost entirely of people that were waving Israeli flags, take note of the fact that, one, these protests are much larger now, and two, directly focus on Palestinian victimhood, and three, do not have any Israeli flags. Now, this is still far, far away from the truth of the matter. They, I don't think, still consider it to be a genocide, but they are now entertaining the notion that war crimes are taking place, which again is, yeah, of course. Having said that, it does show a marked shift in even Israeli society and popular discourse.
But it's quite unusual to see people holding up pictures of Palestinian children. Of course, these people are on the left, but still, there is a growing concern about what is being done in Israel's name.
Some on the Israeli left thought the war was initially justified because of the October the 7th Hamas attacks. But now they see nothing but cruelty.
Although we are not the majority, the reality is still the same reality of genocide, extermination, famine, transfer and expulsion plans.
Amongst the speakers, reservist Captain Ron Feiner, who faces...
This is pretty crazy, by the way. I really hate you had a take on this. In a Facebook post, head of Standing Together, Alon Lee Green, praises Ron Feiner as a hero and a wonderful person. Feiner served 270 days in the current annihilation war and just now decided to refuse and go to anti-war demonstrations. He's also a member of ST's leadership. I'm in favor of rehabilitation for sure, but goddamn, that's quite the expeditious change,
This is 20 days in prison starting on Monday for disobeying orders by refusing to serve in Gaza.
Those orders are not moral. They are not serving the security interest of Israel. The only thing they will bring is death of more soldiers, more Gazan civilians.
For the record, if you want a peaceable solution to the Israeli occupation and the end to the Israeli genocide, this is something that needs to happen. This is something that needs to happen. This is how it happened in apartheid South Africa as well. People that recognized that apartheid South Africa had become a pariah state due to the endless amounts of legal pressure, the endless amount of civil disobedience and protests that took place against apartheid South Africa in the Western world, and the condemnations that came from governments like the United States of America, who even Joe Biden famously was like railing against South African apartheid by the end of that process, led to South Africans themselves, like white South Africans that are beneficiaries of the apartheid structure themselves, changing their attitude on the apartheid in an effort to basically continue existing as a nation state. That pressure internally certainly played a major role in the government also finally coming to that conclusion. So the more people jump ship, even if it's too little too late, the better. There are obviously better methods that I think Israelis could use in their own inside of their own government, considering that almost every single person here is trained by the Israeli military at a certain point. Just saying, you know. But having said that, these things take time. Change takes time, you know?
And our hostages. I would prefer to not get punished, but if this is the price I have to pay for making my moral decisions and choices, I'm okay with it.
A counter-protester arrives, asking why they're holding up pictures of
Chat is stupid. Israelis like me exist. Yes, there aren't many of us, but we do exist. So not all these leftists are fake leftists, but you guys are right that most of them are, sadly. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's just for the record. Like, I have obviously promoted much more radical groups within Israel in the past and interviewed refuseniks in the past, as you know, like Mezarvot, which is a great organization. It is an actual anti-Zionist organization. But the very fact that even like Ombim Be'achad now is entertaining refuseniks, even if they were reservists for 270 days in the ethnic cleansing campaign, means that like there is a tide shift that is taking place even within Israeli society, and there needs to be a tide shift that takes place within Israeli society for this to come to a peaceable solution. Because in the absence of military intervention from a coalition of the willing, Israel is seemingly not going to stop. And without America actually coming out and stopping Israel, there will be no military intervention anyway.
of Palestinian children, when Israeli children have also died. We mourn both, she's told, before the police move her away. Across the road, a small group who say that Israel must continue to attack Gaza were praying and cursing their enemies. The wicked will perish. Those who hate you will be destroyed.
How does this contrast with the polls we were looking at yesterday? Seems like diametrically opposite. Yes, that's why you must understand that this is literally a marginal movement. It is a marginal movement that was already in the margins. It went from 8 to 10 people with no ultimate interest in ending the bloodshed to maybe a couple hundred people with a real demonstration against the bloodshed.
Some were ready for an argument with any left-wing protester who ventured over.
We are not attacking civilians. If you are taking babies under the ground and taking babies in your basement and you are a terrorist, don't think we not shoot you. Okay? This is a very, very specific orders. The Arabs make terror. And terror is bad.
This literally doesn't make sense. These guys are basically promoting an alternative reality that doesn't exist. The internal debate in the war conference and in the governing coalition is literally how much starvation is appropriate. We're not even talking about what the rules of engagement are. We're not talking about what percentage of civilian to enemy combatant targeting capabilities are beyond the pale. All of that stuff is gone. That's not a real conversation that's taking place. The real debate that's taking place currently is, are we allowed to give Palestinian civilians a drop of food or no food whatsoever and complete the starvation campaign? The real argument that's taking place is between the Itamar Ben-Gvir wing and even the Bezalel Smotrich wing, which Bezalel Smotrich is now aligning with Benjamin Netanyahu and saying, no, we have to give them a little bit of food because the only hurdle in front of us from completing our main objective of complete ethnic cleansing is international organs of justice and The Hague. This is literally what the argument was. This is the argument that took place with Bezalel Smotrich's statements that I talked about a couple days ago. Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, okay, who is a rabid settler, terrorist, radical himself, is in contest with Itamar Ben-Gvir right now, because Itamar Ben-Gvir and his even further, more radical wing claims that what must be done is the permanent starvation campaign of all Palestinians so they all die, whereas Bezalel Smotrich says we want to finish the job. We want to permanently occupy the Gaza Strip. We want to do, and they always say, Trump's plan of permanent ethnic displacement of all Palestinians. But while we are doing this, we also are running into problems with The Hague, running into problems with Western organs of justice that are creating hurdles for us, and therefore we have to offer at least a crumb of aid, albeit in a symbolic manner. As Jeremy Scahill writes, Netanyahu, Gaza aid scheme offers Israel symbolic cover to finish the genocide. And they're saying it openly. They are saying it openly. When are you leaving Twitch? I never in my life would have thought that there would be this many Israel dick writers in my chat, by the way. Like, I genuinely don't understand, because like this kind of like debate or this kind of conversation in the real world is not even taking place amongst like Zionist groups. You know what I mean? Christian Zionism is bigger than you think. I mean, no, I know Christian Zionism is massive. It is legitimately shocking how many people come in here and go, I hope you get banned. I hope you get killed, you terrorist. While I'm talking about the insane things that the Israeli government is doing and admitting to. Like, I don't know a single person that is this pro-Israel in the real world. Here's Bezalel Smotrich. I succeeded. The IDF is finally conducting... I succeeded. The IDF is finally conducting a campaign against the civilian rule of Hamas and not just focusing on the military infrastructure. We are eliminating ministers, officials, money changers, and elements of the economic and governmental system of Hamas. In a few days, the American company will, with God's help, start working. This is a direct war crime, okay? This is like a war crime on top of a war crime. Obviously, it's a genocide. So, like, for all of you guys, this is not a surprising. This is not a surprising moment at all. But it's crazy that, like, this isn't like a gotcha. You know what I mean? Which is why, at this stage, when prominent members of the war cabinet are openly explaining their desires in the backdrop of a live-streamed child holocaust, it is still shocking to me that there are still people who have the audacity to openly defend this. I guess I expect people to have some sense of shame in all of this, in an effort to, I don't know, not pollute their social media footprint and maybe create some sense of plausible deniability for themselves later down the line so they can act like they were always against this. But nope. Turns out a lot of people are so hyper-focused on, I don't know, whatever their own agenda is, whatever their idiotic agenda is. And for many, I guess it's just like simply saying I'm in the wrong and that I must be killed or that I'm a terrorist, that they have no shame. They look at the images of starving children. They look at the images of Israeli politicians openly defying international law, openly stating that like they themselves are shocked at how little the international organs of justice or Western nations have reined them in. And these dumb turn around and say, no, it's good. F you for calling out against this.
Makara, free, free, Makara, free, Makara, free, free.
Don't you call for the death of people all the time? No, but if that was the case, if you recognize that that's wrong, no, don't ban that person. Hold on. If you recognize that's wrong, what does this mean here? Like, you're like, oh, you deserve it? Like, is that what it is? Two wrongs make a right? Is that what you're saying? I don't. It's a bannable offense, for the record. Kneecap speak for the first time since the terror charge at surprise London gig. Look at the size of that crowd. No, this is earlier. Wait, is this from yesterday? No, I don't think so.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight in the 100 Club. I want to say, just first of all, I want to thank our label, Heavenly and Jeff, for working with us.
I can imagine oh, thanks very much. The amount of pressure them cunts are under in the last few days. I don't know if you've heard. You won't be getting any headlines off me tonight, you cunts. I promise.
We give him the speech beforehand. He knows what I have to say.
I'm allowed one later.
There's a lot of police outside this venue tonight. They're making a lot of money for doing fuck all.
I swear to fuck, all of you PC bums out there, they should all be thanking me for overtime. Hey, listen. Listen, I'm feeding your kids. Jobs for the boys.
We're from the north of Ireland.
There you go. Thanks very much.
We're very used to the British establishment bringing people from the north and trying to get them into their English jails for stuff they didn't do, like they done before, and they're trying to do it again.
It wasn't even me. I have to be very careful when I say there's a few people nervous out there. I'd like to thank my lawyer, he's here tonight as well. I don't know if I should even say his name.
Kneecap taking Joe Brawley as their barrister, lawyer. He's pretty famous and successfully defended lots of Irish Republicans over the years. He's also a GAA coach. So they've that going for him. Nice. Anne, yürüteceğim mi? Okay, peki.
Just in case, I'll not say Dara Mackin's name.
Sometimes a side chick ain't even a side chick. It's the beautiful and proud nation of Ireland. Yeah, God, I love Irish people so much, bro. I wish they were real.
So we've a load of people to thank for the fact that I'm not in shackles up here. So
the Met Police turned up right before the gig, like hours after the tickets went to sale. Police turning up at 100 Club to harass Kneecap and intimidate gig goers, such a grotesque overreach, and just the latest shameful incident in the state's ongoing suppression of pro-Palestinian voices. That's crazy. They sent the bobbies Or wait, what did they say? What did they say? They call them peelers. The peelers. The peelers. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, this is mine, eh?
Go ahead. Speech.
Does anybody come here on their own? No! Put your hand up. Put your hand up if you're here on your own. See anybody around them, it's be very suspicious. They could easily be undercover.
I do want to remind people that this entire thing, this entire ordeal is extra funny when you consider the fact that the group is called Kneecap after a common practice of the IRA of shooting people in the kneecap for collaborating with the British occupation. Okay. And they are a, pro-IRA rap group. One of their members is called DJ Prove. Like the idea that like you could find them actionable for doing pro-terrorism propaganda in British courts is hilarious. It's like, yeah, dude, they're called Kneecap. One of their songs is called Get the Brits Out. Oh my God. I can't believe it. It's shocking. I can't believe these guys shockingly would would do something worthy of a counterterrorism investigation. Wow. This is, in a weird way, similar to the way America operates as well, where we place Israel in a separate category and Israel's enemies in a separate category, where if you say F America, it's fine, but when you say F Israel, people lose their minds. In the United States of America, those very same student protesters would not have been apprehended if they wrote articles about how America has done horrible things. Okay? But when you write about Israel doing horrible crimes, all of a sudden that's prosecutable. Same thing with this Kneecap situation. You say up Hamas or up Hezbollah is fine. You can't do that. That's prosecutable. You say up the Ra, and that's, that's a direct call to action, technically, against England. Yeah. Liam from Kneecap is up on a terrorism charge for waving a flag. This tubby demon publicly calls for nuking Gaza and probably get a bonus from AIPAC. Yep. It's true. British press also continues to insist on using Mo Farah's Anglican name instead of his Irish name, which is easily Googleable. Yeah. They know where the power to change opinion is. Nobody cares about anti-English or anti-American propaganda at the moment. The open propaganda / colonial front is Israel. Yes. Exactly. That is exactly what's going on. And the reason why they're taking this kind of action instead of just like letting this go is because they recognize that there is no way to win the propaganda war at this point. That the broad majority of the public, especially this generation, my generation and younger, are completely aware of the depravity of the situation. They're completely aware of Israel's genocidal ambitions. They have seen it. The toothpaste is out of the tube. You can't put it back in. So instead of trying to massage the narrative, trying to contextualize all the violence and trying to defend Israel's actions, which only reinforces in the minds of so many that like this is an unsustainable situation and that it is an undemocratic situation where the governments and the media are not in line with the way the public sees this reality. They are trying to prosecute as many people as they possibly can to try and silence people into submission. That's it. This is just the official channels. The average American holds a lot of latent patriotism. They dislike speaking about the U.S. too poorly. Yeah, but the average American also doesn't see Israel as an extension of American empire. You understand that, right? The average American sees Israel as a foreign nation, and perhaps in a scary way, a lot of Americans also see Israel as, because of that patriotism that you're talking about, they see Israel as the Jewish nation that is is getting a bunch of undue influence, okay, overwhelming influence as a Jewish nation, acting in the interest of Jews, and doing so by controlling the media and controlling politicians. That's what the average American believes, because this also, in a weird way, or I guess in a deliberate way, removes the responsibility from the beautiful, glorious nation of America. America in and of itself could never actually engage in such unjustifiable actions. They must be being blackmailed by Mossad. Okay? That is part of the reason why so many people would rather believe the Jewish influence conspiracy theories rather than recognize that America is the one who controls Israel, and America is refusing to reign in Israel, and that there isn't there is a real influence peddling operation that is very sophisticated and very pervasive, but that is there to make sure that politicians don't get step too out of line, or if they do, there's a real punishment for it, right? Kind of. They feel the Judeo-Christian stuff, but they wish Israel did good stuff. They actually know Americans. If what you're saying was true, then there wouldn't be this level of discontent towards Israel's actions, chatter. And because there is this level of discontent towards Israel's actions, there is this level of prosecution towards those who speak out. And the reality of the matter is that only grows more discontent, because, as I've said time and time again, Americans are truly selfish people. American individualism, American exceptionalism plays a major role here. And when you're a truly selfish individual, you see Israel as a foreign nation state, and then your free speech or other America's free speech is removed in a way that could hurt you down the line. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, f this. It only grows that resentment against Israel. 80% of Germans feel that Israel's actions in Gaza are unjustified, and that's even with a leading question a new poll finds. This is actually interesting, because Germany is like one of the most, like, being pro-Israel is basically in the Constitution. Like, you have to be. Okay? America's a Jewish colony. Yeah, they got banned already. Again, this is a way to abdicate the responsibility of bloodshed away from American empire and American ambition in the region. Okay? Oh, our politician, RFK Jr. would never be pro-Israel unless he was like blackmailed or something, you know? He's based. Same with Trump. He's based. He wants to put America first, not realizing that, yes, from their perspective, putting America first implies that there's a grander design in the region, an oil-rich region, and the most significant role player there is Israel. Letting Israel do death and destruction in an effort to create more regional stability that goes along with American interests is the key here, so that they can convincingly prosecute a war against Iran. The overarching ambition, of course, is obviously to fight China, though. But this region plays a strategic role in service of that interest.
Anybody wearing rolling shoes?
We got the house lights on, but
Lawyers didn't even know about it.
Larry Lineker didn't even know about it. Right before the match kicked off, fuck's sake. So I'd like to thank my manager as well for not running away.
Okay, Dan would never run away. Okay, he is the GOAT. I love Dan, for the record. Their manager is a phenomenal person, a truly remarkable individual. Okay, a truly remarkable individual, a man who has worn many hats, a man who has done it all. Okay.
When this all started after Coachella, that man has had fucking less sleep than an owl. Seriously, that man has worked tirelessly. Fucking with Dara Magan as a listener, like, I'm talking about the 2-3 o'clock every morning while I was in South America swallowing Aperol spritzes, murdering Spanish, trying to order a fucking taco.
Murdering Spanish? That's illegal, mate. That's illegal.
I'll stop speaking.
In all seriousness, I think they wanna stop what we're doing, because they want to suppress protesting. They want to suppress people talking about Palestine.
Why would Israel not being an ethno-state affect U.S.'s design in the region? I don't know. Don't you think that a major destabilizing force in the region is the Palestinians, the indigenous population of the land, that actually create a lot of... That actually is a somber reminder to many of the Arabs, especially the Muslim Arabs in the region, of America's continued exploitation of the region and colonial occupation within the region and complete dominance of the region. If you think that the Gulf nation leadership is in line with Israel's interests and America's grand designs, that is true. And as long as there is someone who is willing to fight back against Israel in the region, as long as that discontent exists, Israel cannot completely dominate the area in accordance with America's grand designs.
And they try to suppress it in the streets, but now we've turned music and concerts into acts of resistance, into protest, because there's...
That's what I mean. Isn't it better for America to abandon Israel at this point strategically? No. I mean, there is an argument for that, and I totally understand. Okay, but they're too locked in. They're too locked in on this, like on the role Israel plays. You never retreat on the empire. Exactly. It's sunk cost for sure.
60,000 plus dead in Gaza right now. And that is the real story. It's not about us. It's not about Guy Lineker.
The fact that we are sitting here now haven't even mentioned the fact that the reason that we are being witch hunted here is because we at Coachella spoke out about this, about the genocide. Burn the concert in question happened a long time ago. This all came from the fact...
Allegedly.
I wasn't even there. I'm just here, I'm just his spokesperson. So just bear that in mind. As he said, we're not the story here. They're using us as a scapegoat not to talk about the real fucking issue. I don't need to explain that to you cunts, so I appreciate you all coming. Free Palestine.
Also, U.S. is signaling that China and Russia with Gaza, as dark as it is, America is still happy to do horrific war crimes for his interests. Thoughts on this take? Let's see. From Sammy Gold. One of the problems of liberalism is that despite Israel disobeying every single aspect of the fundamental principles of liberalism, most liberals defend it because liberalism in the modern day has focused too much on defending self-described liberals than actually defending liberalism. Discourse since October 7th allowed in itself a great moment for liberal intellectuals to finally reject the corrosive influence of Zionism from its ranks in favor of internationalism, but they declined to naively because they thought liberal Zionism would win them any favors. It's more liberal than all the states in the region. It's not more liberal than Lebanon or Jordan even. True. Literally. It's not. The notion that Israel is a liberal democratic state is so funny because, like, even beyond the apartheid, which is, again, something that you can't just like easily cast aside, or the genocide that has taken place over the course of the past 19 months, Israel in and of itself has become an increasingly more reactionary society as a direct consequence of refusing to address the inherent contradictions of sitting on top of apartheid, okay? It is crazy. All it took for so many people to subscribe to this notion was, one, paired up with like an endless sea of Islamophobic propaganda. All these Muslims are barbaric, backwards rapists, yada, yada, yada. And also Israel to just basically slap on a gay rainbow flag, you know? Like we're talking about a society that doesn't allow interfaith marriages, okay? And if you, suspiciously, if you're gay, you just have to go to Cyprus to get married. Who knows why? Who knows why? I don't know. And goddamn libtards run around like it's a safe haven, dude. It's so stupid. Even the pink washing is built on top of a lie. It is literally a religious fundamentalist state. It's a religious ethno state. Why the would it not be backwards?
And you disagree?
Of course I disagree, because in Egypt we did an agreement with the same Muslims. There is peace in Jordan. We have peace. Agreements make security, not military. And when you say they, the children, the women, they are bombing us, I think.
Isn't pink washing inherently a lie though? No, because pink washing is like saying America is like pro LGBT. Pink washing would be like showing the gay officers in the Navy. It's not a lie that there is gay officers in the Navy. The Navy's gay as okay? But you're basically saying, look at these homosexuals and don't look at what those homosexuals are doing when they're controlling a F-18 fighter jet. That's pink washing. But in Israel, the pink washing beyond it is like, is just like built on top of additional lies is what I mean. It's not as like, it's not even as like, as pro-gay as like the American government is.
It's a long war, and somebody will give up. Okay, we are not going to give up, because this is the land of the Jewish people. I think.
The land is of God. The land is of God.
I'm going to leave you two to carry on your argument.
A few miles away in Gaza, they gathered not to protest, but to dig out the dead and injured from the wreckage of a house in Jabalia, destroyed by an overnight Israeli airstrike. About 50 people had been sheltering there. A baby and a child were amongst the dead. Neither protests within Israel nor censure from European countries is stopping the Israeli government from continuing their onslaught. The people of Gaza do not have the luxury of argument, just the reality of trying to survive.
Well, joining me now live from Tel Aviv, the former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, who was once in the same party as Benjamin Netanyahu, but is now one of his biggest critics. Thank you for joining us. When we see Israelis accusing their government of war crimes, of genocide, it's a remarkable thing. Do you agree with those people that that's what's going on?
Well, I may not use necessarily the same terminology of genocide. I'll be very hesitant, but
I mean, Ehud Olmert saying they're war crimes today means that people are going to start saying genocide tomorrow. When you got former prime ministers saying there's war crimes about, it's over. It's in the last stage, okay? That's it. That's it. It's the same principle behind the guy who started the Human Rights Watch, who is a Zionist himself, who is a Holocaust survivor himself, if I'm not mistaken, coming out and initially saying, give him hell, Israel. You have every responsibility to kill as many people as possible post-October 7, only to very quickly turn around and say, holy f***, this is a genocide. It's over. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I said this. The reason why he said that is because the reason why he openly admitted that he thought what Israel's campaign of war post-October 7 was just, and it wasn't a genocide. He said it. This was literally a year and a half ago, by the way, the Human Rights Watch guy. The reason why he changed his attitude was because of the starvation campaign. As soon as that happened, that is like the most definable war crime out there. There is nothing more aggressively a war crime than that, okay? Because weirdly enough, in the field, in the theater of battle, okay, you can still try to use legal limiters to say, well, we have well-defined rules of engagement. Sometimes people, get outside of the confines of those bombing campaigns. It's not really a killing field. We just simply decided that you can kill 20 Palestinian civilians for one person that we have falsely declared an enemy combatant or whatever. Like, these are ways in which you can try to find defenses for your military actions. But when you say you're cutting food, water, electricity to the civilian population that you are holding captive, that's it. I'm not talking about Omer being a Holocaust survivor, dude. No, I'm not talking about this guy. I'm not talking about him. Sounds like you're reaching all the time, Hasan. You're reaching. I'm reaching. Oh. I think being this stupid and having the right to speak should be illegal. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're this dumb, just shut up. Maybe you'll learn a thing or two, you know? I'm reaching. The former Israeli prime minister is like, they're doing war crimes. What more do you want to hear? Like, there is no counter argument to Israel's genocide, okay? There is none. They have openly admitted it. Leadership has openly admitted it. They demand more. Reach for a book. Jesus Christ.
One thing is obvious. What is done now in Gaza is totally unacceptable, intolerable, and unforgivable. We have to stop the war immediately. There is nothing that we can achieve by expanding the military operation that can be of any value. On the contrary, we are likely to use the hostages, to lose the hostages, and to lose soldiers that will fall in battle, and to kill many uninvolved Palestinians in Gaza, none of which is something that worse this military operation. We have to stop it, and we have to try and come to some kind of an accommodation that will bring back all the hostages.
We've seen Netanyahu and his ministers attacking the British Prime Minister, the French President, effectively blaming them, accusing them of anti-Semitism and of feeding anti-Semitism with their language. I mean, what is happening to Israel's international relationships?
Look, we certainly disagree completely with this language, which is absolutely obnoxious and outrageous. Great Britain Prime Minister Mr. Sturmer, President Macron, Prime Minister Carney of Canada, all are friends of the Jewish people and the State of Israel. There is no question about it. They may not be friends of the Israeli government. I'm not a friend of the Israeli government. And the majority of Israelis, I believe, today are not friends of the Israeli government. So, yeah, we are all victims of this very aggressive government. Prime Minister Netanyahu is a captive of these messianic groups of extreme right-wingers, fundamentalists, Ben Gvir and Smotrich and their supporters. And I think it is going to cost Israel a great deal in the international relations. Yes, however, I can't criticize.
This is the liberal Zionist position, which is so crazy to hear from Ehud Olmert, okay? You got war criminals. You got former war criminals being like, yeah, the amount of the sheer volume of war crimes that Israel's committing is actually harming Israel's clout in the global stage. It's becoming a pariah state, which is true. This is not a moderating voice, chat, please. This is not a moderating voice. The very fact that a guy like him is the very fact that a guy like him is coming to this conclusion is because the situation is that bad. Cat's out of the bag, you know? That's it. Like, he's trying to present an alternative reality, saying like, oh, Israelis themselves are victims. Israelis themselves hate the situation. When obviously polls show Israelis don't necessarily hate the full tilt bloodshed that's taken place. They don't hate it at all. For him, he's even going so far as to say that Netanyahu's prosecution of this genocide, continuation of this genocide, is also coming from his unique position of being captive to the interests of the right wing, the far right. Netanyahu is the far right. So was Ehud Olmert, by the way.
President Macron, Prime Minister Sturmer, or Prime Minister Carney, or Prime Minister Meloni, or the prime ministers of other European countries, because I also criticized the Israeli government for more or less the same things. So, and I think that most of the Israelis feel like me. they think that the war should end today and that we should bring all the hostages, and there is no reason and no wisdom and no moral foundation for killing so many innocent, non-involved people in Gaza. It has to stop.
The opinion polls keep suggesting, as you say, that a majority are against this going on, but the Israeli political process does not deliver that right now and doesn't look like it will in the foreseeable future.
What opinion polls?
Well, no. You know, you are a democracy in Great Britain. You know that sometimes government has a majority when everyone knows that the majority of votes in the parliament does not necessarily reflect.
The only opinion poll that gets like a serious majority of, or not even a serious majority, but any simple majority of Israelis is factoring in, one, the Palestinian citizens of Israel, the Israeli Arabs, and two, it's not even about like what Israel has done in Gaza, but more so about releasing the hostages. Because Israeli society, by and large, the Israeli Jewish society, recognizes that, of course, hostages are not going to be fucking released unless they stop the bloodshed. So that's why many of the protests that you see about releasing the hostages, the largest protests that you see, are not about ending the bloodshed. They're simply about ending the bloodshed now so you can have a release of the hostages at least now. Then you can continue.
Reflect the attitude of most of the people. You were in a similar situation in Great Britain the last year. For most of the year, 2024, there was a government and everyone knew that Labour is going to win the elections big time. But as long as there was a majority in parliament, they could do certain things. So we are rioting in the streets, hundreds of thousands of Israelis, day in, day out, and we are taking all kinds of protest actions against this government, trying to overthrow the government in a democratic manner, of course, by adding actions against this government, and maybe also the international pressure and the attitude of countries which are known to be traditionally very friendship to the state of Israel. British people, French people, the Canadian people, and their leaderships, they never were against the state of Israel. They are against the government, and if they will carry on in expressing their attitudes, it may be very helpful to the public opinion of Israel.
Well, I mean, should they go beyond that? There are calls for sanctions against members of the Israeli government. Do you think that kind of pressure would be a good idea by countries like Britain and those in the European Union?
I was going to say no.
I'm tempted to say something which might sound cynical. If Britain will put sanctions on Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, they will not be allowed to go to Britain. And some people would say in Israel they had better go to Britain and not come back. So I don't know whether these sanctions. I think that I'd not like that the state of Israel and the people of Israel will suffer from, for instance, economic sanctions, as the Europeans are threatening to take, and Great Britain talking about the trade agreements with Israel, which may be cancelled, which will...
Wow. Remember when I told you that this could be ended without any bloodshed whatsoever? Remember what I told you about economic pressure? Remember what I told you about how sanctions work on your allies? They don't work on your enemies because your enemies have designed trade to withstand sanctions. I said that on October 8th, 2023, by the way. It took 19 months for them to even begin to entertain.
Affect the Israeli people. I very much hope that we will not come to that point. But if we will come to that point, I think it will be clear that the guilt for this lies entirely on the shoulders of the Israeli government.
And if you're right that Israel may change its government one day in the future, would you want to see that government delivering international law to effectively hand over Netanyahu to face criminal charges?
Well, my desire, and I think the desire of many Israelis, is that Netanyahu will disappear forever from the landscape of our political and public lives. Okay, so I think at this time, what we are interested in is making a political change that will bring down this government and will allow more decent, more responsible, and more humane people to take over, and that they will be dedicated to what I think is the main objective of Israel, to conclude once and for all the historic conflict between us and the Palestinians, to proceed rapidly into a two-state solution negotiations between us and the Palestinians, which is the only possible way to resolve this conflict. This is what I was trying.
He's saying to go back to business as usual when he was prime minister, because obviously you could continue dispossessing the indigenous Palestinians from their land in the West Bank while every now and then doing shit like Operation Cast Lead, which he did. Remember, it's not Benjamin Netanyahu alone who said how much Israel benefits from propping up Hamas as the only legally recognizable entity in defense of the Palestinians. This has always been the Israeli government's occupational goals. You prop up Hamas as the only recognizable entity in the region in defense of Palestinians. Hamas has a very difficult time getting international support or any kind of sympathy, especially due to the unlimited amounts of Islamophobia from the Western world. And then you apply pressure in the West Bank to further to further erode any chance of Palestinian sovereignty. You take up more and more space. You keep oppressing Palestinians in the West Bank. Hamas being the only entity that actually fights back against Israel, retaliates. And then when Hamas retaliates, you control how high the fires get. You control how you curb stomp the Palestinian civilian population once again. Anyway.
Trying to do when I was prime minister. Unfortunately, at that time, Palestinian leadership was not courageous enough to come along on this path. But
the moment Hassan came to full control of the region, got even more screwed because the government itself was terrorist. What the f are you talking about? No. What do you mean? Oh, the government itself was terrorist. Okay, the Israeli government is a far bigger terrorist than Hassam. You mean Hamas? Is there any group that has ever been able to resist against imperialist occupation or colonial occupation that has not been branded barbaric savages, rapists, monsters, and terrorists alike? The PLO was considered a terrorist organization too. It was actually the first practical application of the term terrorist ever used in official government documents in the United States of America. Far before the war on terror, far before ISIS, far before Al Qaeda, far before the Taliban, it was the PLO. I wonder why. Anyway, remember, it's important to understand what the likes of Ehud Olmert are saying, because this is the exit ramp for Israel. They will try to whitewash and try to re-launder the reputation of Israel as aggressively as they possibly can. But that means the genocide seemingly is coming to an end. How many Palestinian children die in the process? That I do not know.
And this is what the new Israeli government will have to do, and I hope that the Palestinian leadership at that time will be compatible in terms of its openness to take part in this effort. And what will be the personal fate of Netanyahu is less important in as long as he will disappear completely from the landscape of our political and public life.
Ehud Olmert, thank you very much indeed.
And now the FBI is going after Ken Klippenstein. For the second time in a year, the FBI came to my home yesterday after I published a so-called manifesto of the man charged with killing 2 Israeli embassy staffers in Washington. The visit didn't surprise me, but its tone did. It was aggressive and threatening. "You're not in trouble," the 2 special agents kept saying, good cop style, to get me to answer the questions they would later ask. Where had I gotten the manifesto? Had I had pre-knowledge of the attack? Did I receive instructions about how to disseminate the statement? Not a single mainstream media outlet has published the text because, as they claim, the FBI hasn't confirmed its authenticity. But the real reason is simple. The media just doesn't want to publish it, and the FBI doesn't want the media to think it can. "You're not in trouble," they said a few more times. "I know," I replied, wondering what else I could say to them to get them to go away. Shutting the door in their faces did not seem wise. Maybe I could demonstrate that I know enough about the FBI that their elicitation techniques wouldn't work, I thought. You guys are from the satellite office in Middleton? I asked them, alluding to one of their many but little-known resident agencies distinct from their field offices, Wisconsin's being in Milwaukee. Have you been there? The man asked, looking surprised. No. That's where the last visit came from, I explained, smiling. The Bureau paid me a visit last year about my publication of the J.D. Vance dossier. This, too, seemed to throw them off. They were sent by Washington, they said, perhaps trying to distance themselves from the intrusion. Then came the big ask. We want to know about the timeline, how you knew about the manifesto before anyone else, and if you were in touch with the shooter beforehand. I once again referred them to my attorney, and finally they left. But that wasn't the last I'd hear of them. They left my lawyer, Beth Burden, a career public defender who goes toe-to-toe with cops every day for her job, support her excellent work here, a voicemail, which I've enclosed below.
Hi, Beth. My name is Ellen Thurmer. I'm a special agent with the FBI Milwaukee Division out of the Madison RA. I'm calling in regards to your client, Ken Klipperstein. I was just over at Mr. Klipperstein's residence earlier today, following up on some questions I had regarding the manifesto that he published on his blog yesterday. Mr. Klipperstein recommended that we give you a call or email in order to consult with you prior to an interview or in conjunction with you. He was not comfortable speaking to us without your guidance. Again, my name is Ellen Thurmer. I'm with FBI Milwaukee, the Madison RA. I can be reached here at my cell phone. I'll also try to follow up with you via email.
It's not a scam, chatters. What the are you talking about? As Beth explained to me, Special Agent Ellen P. Thurmer, one of the two that visited me, told her that they wanted to know why I'd published a manifesto, among other questions. Beth called them back, and after some back and forth, the Special Agent offered to send the questions in an email, trying to convince me to submit to an interview as a part of their investigation. The purpose of this interview is to glean as much information regarding the manifesto, how it came into Mr. Klippenstein's possession as possible. The email said, "We would appreciate it if this list of questions was kept between you and your client," the email read. These are those 11 questions from the email I've reproduced below. When did he first encounter the manifesto? How did he first encounter the manifesto? Did he receive any instruction from the source of the manifesto about how to disseminate it? Does the system or platform from which he received the manifesto capture metadata concerning the transfer of the manifesto? Did he make any edits or changes to the manifesto? Was this his first and only interaction with whomever submitted the manifesto? You want to know something interesting? There was another person who was very quick, just like Ken Klippenstein, who also published or reposted the manifesto. His name is Eric Toller. He is a part of the Visual Investigations Unit at the New York Times. Because Eric Toller, much like Ken Klippenstein, is a real journalist. The dude published his manifesto on his Twitter account. What are we talking about? Has anyone else submitted any other documentation regarding this incident? Did his receipt of the manifesto predate the attack? Where else, if anywhere, did he disseminate the manifesto? Does he have any knowledge of where else the manifesto was published or saved? Why does he think he was the one who received the manifesto? That last one is, the implication is that last one is a gotcha, for the record. Because that last one is a hidden premise that he's the one who actually received the manifesto from the shooter. Other than the questions implying the FBI is entertaining an outlandish theory that I conspire with the shooter, the others seem pretty straightforward and routine. But there's a Trump administration dimension to all of this. The administration has many times publicly warned about shadowy, unseen forces that it believes are bankrolling everything from Tesla vandalism to the college protests. That tone from the top, labeling seemingly everything terrorism, tells personnel that the gloves are off and more aggressive work in the field is now permissible. Get ready to hear that I'm impeding the investigation, giving people a roadmap to the sources and methods that are used to catch terrorists, or whatever reason the National Security State Soundboard offers up for why the public isn't allowed to know things. Let's see if this gets me another visit. That was Ken Klippenstein. Subscribe to his Substack to continue supporting good journalism. What is happening? Are you guys duking it out? What manifesto are they referring to? It's the one that the shooter released that was available, I believe, on his Twitter account and his Blue Sky account. Ken Klippenstein released the manifesto on his Substack yesterday. I covered it yesterday when he released the manifesto to understand the motives of the suspect. Here is the Israel embassy shooter manifesto, which we covered yesterday. So he did not paywall it, no. Especially at a time when the motives of these actions are very important, and the media is offering a separate presentation of the events that unfolded. I'm not shying away from discussing the true motives of this suspect, even if those true motives of the suspect unironically are damaging to what I seek to do. Because it would be very easy to simply just go along with this and be like, well, anti-Semitism has no place, which is true, it doesn't, right? And this person was anti-Semitic. But I think it's important to make up your own mind and to investigate further and find the truth, especially at a time when narrative overcomes the truth quite frequently. The man shot is a Christian Zionist, is not anti-Semitic. Yeah, look, that part of it is not all that important. The only reason why I've brought that up is because a lot of news media was immediately reporting on it as though he was Jewish when he is not, okay? He was a practicing Christian, for the record. One of the two people that he shot and killed was a practicing Christian that had gone to Jerusalem, that actually volunteered to join the Israeli occupying force, that what do you call it? He was a German Christian. His mother was a practicing, his mother is a practicing evangelical Christian. His father was Jewish, but he himself was a German Christian. He revealed this on numerous instances, talked about it. He talked about it numerous times. Okay. Once again, this is not information that the shooter, as far as we know, was privy to. Having said that, okay. Wait, hold on. I gotta do something. 1 second. Yes, I used to know Sarah. She was Jewish. Yes, Sarah is Jewish. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. I just got to do this.
As you go forward, with what you have seen, can you give us any sense, because you said you looked the shooter in the eyes, can you give us any sense of what you saw in him as he was sort of getting help and people were tending to him as if he too was a victim of seeing this?
Yeah, to be clear, I heard about that part because we were in a secure room when he initially walked in. I just saw him screaming and then being handcuffed. But what I saw in his eyes, I went to Columbia for grad school, and I saw the same thing in his eyes as I saw in the eyes of all the protesters at Columbia. Nothing different between him and them.
But they did not create this horrific shooting. They did not, they didn't shoot.
They gave permission. They gave the permission. And they have called for this. They have called for Intifada revolution, which is the same thing he yelled last night.
Do you worry that there will be a conflation, though, of the two, those people who are speaking their mind, who really care about?
Yeah, this was this question, okay, which is surprisingly decent, okay? This question is about how in the future the government could potentially prosecute even people saying free Palestine. Because it's not a secret, it's not hidden that the administration is actively targeting pro-Palestinian demonstrators and claiming that they are terrorists or anti-Semitic in an effort to prosecute them in direct violation of the First Amendment protections that are offered to every single citizen and non-citizen on U.S. soil.
About what is happening in Gaza, and those people who are like this person who did this horrific shooting, who intend to do harm.
A conflation. They are calling for Intifada at Columbia.
He's literally saying this is the same thing. What this shooter did is what these people are demanding, what Free Palestine people are demanding. That is what he's saying.
Columbia University, they call for intifada constantly. They're not quietly, they're loud. They're loud. You can hear it. They make recordings of themselves. So what's the difference?
Are you afraid?
Yes.
What will
We're
you do
all
about
afraid.
that?
Everyone should be afraid.
What are you doing to try to make yourself feel safer?
Well, okay, just go on and live your life. I'm a New Yorker. I remember 9/11. You can't let them make you be afraid. You have to go on. You have to live your life, and hopefully your government does things to protect you. Last night, our government failed us.
Jonathan Epstein, I know that they are going forward with this.
No, I don't think, for the record, I don't think that this is, once again, I'm going to repeat this, even though the dumbest morons that are trying to do Hasbara and trying to do pro-Israel commentary are claiming the opposite. I do not believe that this was a false flag incident. Okay? I don't. I think I understand why people do, but I think it's unproductive to make speculations such as this. The shooter is in custody. He is not dead. Okay? The shooter volunteered himself to the authorities. Not everything is a major conspiracy. Can you explain what a false flag is? Yes, a false flag is the idea that interested parties actually created this environment, that actually set up this assassination, as though Israel played a role in the killing of these two diplomats, these two staffers in the Israeli embassy, in an effort to whip up anger and resentment towards the Free Palestine movement. This is what people are saying, okay? That it's staged or it's fake. I don't think it is staged or fake. In many false flags, the perp is groomed to carrying out the attack, though. I don't think this perpetrator, there will be a further investigation in this. If something smells strange, then maybe I'll change my analysis, but judging by all the readily available information, I do not believe that this was a incident where the perpetrator was manipulated or anything like that. False flag is a deceptive activity carried out during peacetime by individuals or non-governmental organizations. I think Sean the Black said it well yesterday. America and Israel don't need pretense for escalation against Palestine anymore. This isn't Iraq. America and Israel are so belligerent they've dropped the need for false flags. I don't even disagree. Yeah, I think that's a good take. Yeah, a famous false flag incident was a proposed false flag operation called Operation Northwoods, where they were looking for just cause to invade Cuba. And what the CIA designed, okay, was within the Department of Defense of the United States government in 1962. The proposal called for CIA operatives to both stage and commit acts of terrorism against American military and civilian targets and blame them on the Cuban government. That is a famous example of a proposed false flag incident that never took place. Another false flag incident is the Gulf of Tonkin incident. This was used as an opportunity to offer just cause to the United States of America in invading and occupying Vietnam. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was an international confrontation that led to the United States engaging more directly in the Vietnam War. It consisted of a confrontation when the United Forces were carrying out covert amphibious operations close to North Vietnamese territorial waters, which triggered a response from the North Vietnamese forces. The United States government falsely claimed that a second incident occurred on the 4th of August between the North Vietnamese and United States ships in the waters of the Gulf of Tonkin. Originally, a U.S. military claim blamed North Vietnam for the confrontation and the ostensible, but in fact imaginary incident on August 4th. Later investigation revealed that the second attack never happened. The National Security Agency, an agency of the U.S. Department of Defense, had deliberately skewed intelligence to create the impression that an attack had been carried out, claiming that the North Vietnamese forces had actually opened fire. This is what people think happened. This is what people think took place during the shooting incident yesterday or 2 days ago. I do not believe that it is a false flag. the reason as to why people think it's a false flag is because of the timing of it, which is one day after the Israeli occupying force opened fire on diplomats in the West Bank that were on a invited trip to the West Bank, and also because Israel's people's perception of Israel is more negative than it's ever been throughout the 77 years of Israeli occupation in the United States of America. This would relitigate. This would, one, perfectly create an environment where the government would have to actively suppress pro-Palestinian speech by tying all pro-Palestinian emancipatory movements and even the PSL, which the shooter briefly was affiliated with and stopped being affiliated with since 2017, and other legal entities that are allowed to operate under the First Amendment to no longer be able to operate legally. This ties back to the Project Esther ambitions that were created by the Heritage Foundation alongside Project 2025. Project Esther is the anti-Semitism task force side of Project 2025. It is a written out, deliberate attempt of undermining First Amendment protections in this country by tackling pro-Palestinian protesters by claiming that every single person that is aware of the atrocities that Israel commits, or aware of the 77-year occupational history of Israel as a violent settler colonial state, is actually a part of the Hamas Support Network, HSN for short. Project Esther is open. That's not what I'm saying is not speculation. This is a real document produced by the Heritage Foundation. And as we know, the Heritage Foundation has produced many documents, this right-wing think tank, that the Trump administration follows to a T. Okay? This is the reason why people suspect it is a false flag. I do not believe it's a false flag, but I do believe that both the Israeli government, demonstrably, and also all of the networks that want to promote Israel, or at least shift the attention away from Israel's atrocities in the Gaza Strip, are using this as an opportunity to clamp down on pro-Palestinian speech, myself included. There is a reason why there are individuals that directly engage in Hasbara operations, whether it be the ADL or whether it be the likes of dumbfucks like E.L. Jacoby, immediately rushed to claim things that I wasn't doing as though I was doing them, including, but not limited to, the notion that I considered this to be a false flag operation. You can watch the 37-second video and recognize that I'm actually not saying it's a false flag operation. I'm saying the exact opposite. And yet, this dumb has now been retweeted by the likes of Jake Tapper. We do live in the post-truth era. Anyway, so that's what is going on. Incredible stuff. Hasan Reactions is one of the best ones in the React channel.